Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. The Monday Labor Day holiday allowed us to have this update on a Tuesday. I'll be joined in a few seconds by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, and then also we have a special report on some outreach efforts that we're making in the area of economic development at Disabilities Job Fair. And we're going to have Bridget Gibbons, our Director of Economic Development, and Shari Rosen-Asher, who's our Director of Program and Policies in this area, active on our Disabilities Board. They will both be here to give us an update on that. We know that this is maybe not the astrological beginning of the fall season, but usually when you pass Labor Day, you feel as if you are beginning the fall months, and of course we're going on to all of the activities that will take us through the end of the year. As we look for the next couple of months, we will be presenting to the Westchester County Board of Legislators in the month of October the 2023 capital budget. And then in the month of November, we'll be presenting to the Board of Legislators for their review and ultimately modification and approval the operating budget for 2023. We'll be working on a number of different labor contracts for some of the unions that are still awaiting final agreements on contracts. We have one coming up with the Police Benevolent Association for the county police, correction officers, superior officers, CSCA. All of that is ahead of us as we go into the fall. We'll have some preparatory public hearings before we present the budget to the Board of Legislators, and they will have public meetings on that topic. We're continuing our town hall series, which we'll mention in a second, on the airport master plan efforts that we're doing. So it's going to be a busy fall. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and we're certainly anxious to tackle these things. We'll start today with a brief report on our weather. If you look out the window, you'll see that it's raining for the first time in quite a while. We started to have some downpours. We've had them in different parts of the county, but sort of regularly over the last few hours. We consulted with the National Weather Service. It's mostly light rain throughout the remainder of the day today. There will be periods of moderate to heavy rainfall possible in some locations. Up to 1 inch of additional rainfall is forecast. No thunderstorms are in the forecast, and a flood watch remains in effect until 5 p.m. tonight. You may remember it was slightly more than a year ago that we had Hurricane Ida, which made landfall in New Orleans, make its way up into our area, and we had more than our share of water. A year later, we've had conditions that approach drought conditions. So Mother Nature's been in charge of the priority issues on our agenda with each individual year and each individual turn of the calendar page. The flood watch is issued normally by the National Weather Center when conditions are favorable for a specific hazardous weather event to occur. That issuance means that the conditions are favorable for flooding. It does not mean that flooding will occur, but that it is possible. And again, that is from the National Weather Service. We're monitoring the weather conditions as we have them today. Normally speaking, Westchester County, which owns and manages the Bronx River Parkway, is responsible for looking at that particular roadway and shutting it down if road conditions do not permit safe travel. Oftentimes, the closure of the Bronx River Parkway begins at the Bronxville split, where the Sprain Parkway heads to the northwest, and from that point of the Bronx River Parkway in Bronxville up to Main Street in White Plains, sometimes up to the county center, which is the next exit about a quarter of a mile further north of that. That's the corridor that floods the greatest amount in a number of different places. We have not closed the Bronx River Parkway at this point in time. The rain is fairly light outside, but we're going to watch that, and you should as well. If that particular roadway is part of your normal commuting and you see a heavy rainstorm after a certain period of time, you can realistically presume we will close that particular roadway down. The other roadways, either operated by the local towns, cities, and villages, or by the State of New York Department of Transportation or the Thruway Authority, fall within their authority to make those decisions. The county police polices all of the parkways, but the decision on closing a parkway belongs to the state, and so we interact with the state. If conditions on the Sawmill River Parkway or the Hutchinson River Parkway become more pronounced, we'll deal with it at that point in time. None of this is brand new news. This is standard procedure when we get rain. We haven't had it in such a long time that people may forget that, so we want to make sure we highlight it. And it does lead into a brief update of where we are with drought conditions. As it stands right now today, Westchester County is in a moderate drought condition for 100% of our area. There is some area that may have severe drought in the northern part of the county, and you have to consider that In the northern part of the county, people draw their drinking water more from wells than from public water systems. In the southern part of the county, it's from the public water systems, which use surface water, reservoir water, in order to provide water. We have had one of the driest Julys on record, and we have had one of the driest years to date, both over the 128-year period by which records are kept for these things. We're about a little over 2 inches below normal in terms of rainfall. When we have severe drought, we're concerned about wildfires, we're concerned about certain specialty crops which are impacted. Air quality is poor when we have an extended period of time of severe drought. We are not in a severe drought situation as it stands now, and we've had some discussions about this with the relevant people in county government. We are not proclaiming any proclamation of concern to this point that requires us to change our behavior by law. And I tend to try to avoid making things mandatory if I can. But this is a perfectly good time, given the number of weeks we've gone without rainfall, to use water prudently in the way you operate. So we're not making any requirements. We could do that if the conditions worsen, even despite today's rain or tomorrow's rain. If conditions worsen over a period of time, we have the authority and the responsibility to act and to call a state of emergency and to put certain restrictions in place. We are not doing that at this stage of the game. We'll see how this rainfall issue affects us, and we'll see about the rainfall that is projected for, if not later in the week, in the beginning of next week. We are looking for the dialogue with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, which governs the various reservoirs, not just in Westchester, the Croton Reservoir, Rye Lake, but also reservoirs that are further upstate in the Catskills and the Delaware region. Their capacity reservoirs are at 76.5% of normal, and they should at this time of the year be at 88.8%. So we're down a certain percentage in our reservoirs, but it is not yet at a crisis level, so we do not take any mandatory action now. Were we to take some action, we would look at the way fire hydrants are being used. Generally in hot weather, folks will open up fire hydrants to cool off in certain neighborhoods. We will look at whether or not you can use hoses for street, driveways, sidewalk, automobile washing, things of that nature, limitations on watering lawns, gardens, golf courses, the ornamental display of water, the fountains, waterfalls, reflecting pools. All of those kinds of things fall under a review if water becomes precious and we want to save it for drinking and other essential purposes. However, we don't need to do that at this stage of the game. But to give you an example of what we as a county government is doing, voluntarily, we're reducing the watering that we're doing on our golf courses. We have a protocol for the fairways, the tees, and the greens, but we will step back from watering the rough area outside of the fairway. And of course, that normally has higher grass. Generally, the golfer tries to stay out of that part of the golf course if their skill set allows them to do that. We're reducing any use of water for power washing of buildings, things of that nature, for which we're stepping back. No mandatory requirements at this stage of the game, but we're going to keep monitoring the situation. We want to make sure that we have sufficient drinking water. If we get some additional rain today, tomorrow, one day of rain will not solve the problem, nor will a couple of days of rain. But if we're heading in the right direction, once again, there's no reason to make mandatory restrictions. We, the county government, are not making any other mandatory restrictions. We are dialoguing with local municipal governments. Some local governments may be in a different situation because of where they draw their water from. What we're talking about is the overall county responsibility, and we're trying to be as responsible as we can to make sure there's a sufficient supply of water for which we draw from, as does New York City and other parts all across the state. If there are any questions about this, you're welcome to give us a call, 995-2900, and we're happy to explain that in any greater detail. And stay tuned. If we make any changes in our plans, we will publicly announce them and make sure that everybody knows. On a different point, our paratransit system. We provide a Beeline bus system for regular use and travel, and we have a paratransit system that helps people who are disabled in some fashion be able to get around, and the services that are provided are in vehicles that can accommodate whatever that disability may be. We announced with great fanfare that we were putting in a mobile application, an app, which went live in the middle of the month, Tuesday, August 16th. As can be expected, anytime you start something new, there can be bugs bugs to work out of the system. We've had some issues over the course of the first 2+ weeks of the application's usage. We appreciate everybody's patience in working through this, and we're now working very actively to try to resolve some of those bumps in the road. Our Information Technology Department, IT, is working with individuals who have been having trouble setting up accounts. We have seen a great improvement over the period of time. These problems were evidenced when we first implemented the app. And if any riders have any issues that they want to share, they can reach us online at parahelp, P-A-R-A-H-E-L-P, parahelp at westchestergov.com. And that email information will be shared with the people who can then respond to that individual. Get a call back, you provide your information. We'll look at all the emails and handle them as quickly as we can. Adjustments have been made to create improved travel times for riders so that individuals may spend less time in the vehicle. We know that that's an issue when you have a route service, and those travel times may vary depending on those individuals and where they're going. We certainly are working with our vendors to prioritize additional trainings to deal with these issues. And we've also had a high call volume. During the summer, we had a very high call volume. We know that we suspended fares on Paratransit as we did on the Beeline bus system, which was, we think, a very helpful initiative for people. And we got more call volume in Paratransit than we normally do. But we're working through these things. If the problem still exists for the next day or 2 or 3, understand we're working on it. We're trying to make it more workable for the individual. And we think that once we smooth out those bumps in the road, having an application on your phone is one of the easy ways and contemporary ways here in the 21st century to access information in addition to the traditional ways that we've done it. But we recognize there's been an issue. We're addressing it, and I want to thank both the people involved in our Office for People with Disabilities and as well those in our Department of Transportation for working cooperatively on this to try to resolve those issues. I should point out that today, September 6th, resumes the normal season for our bus system. And for those of you that took advantage of us lifting bus fares all throughout the Beeline bus system, we hope you enjoyed that initiative. There have been some people who've called me saying, oh, you have to do this all year long. You do realize that the revenue that comes from the fare box is what helps fund the system. We were able to make this initiative possible for a little over 3 months based on other revenue sources, but the revenue that comes from the fare box is essential in being able to run the system itself. So we're not in a position to be able to run a completely free system. Unfortunately, there's no or very few transit systems in America that operate without some fare for return. But we hope that the 3-month fare rescission was helpful to you. I hope it was, and it gave you a chance to see the system. A lot of people were reintroduced to the bus system who fell off perhaps because of COVID, perhaps for other reasons. And certainly we've seen some of the reduction in some of the cost of living in our society. Gas prices are down from where they were when we instituted this in the initial stages, and that's encouraging. We signed on to saving some of the sales tax for that, so that's had some contributory element to it. And if gas prices are down a little bit, we want them to go down a lot more than that. We're not in direct control over that, but if gas prices go down and if we can make some other different economies, then we're trying to be helpful as much as we can. Our pools and beaches have closed for the season, with yesterday, Labor Day, being the last day of the operation of pools and beaches. We'll talk in a few minutes about the results of that effort, but I know they've been very good. We've gotten a great response from it. But it's important to note that we made those available Monday through Thursday without cost to individuals as another one of those cost-saving measures. We made 2 of our MTA lots available for free for July and August, the White Plains Station and the North White Plains Station, lots that the county owns, not all the parking there, but in those 2 locations we made those free. We think that was helpful. And we have some additional plans coming up. We continue to provide free testing for civil service exams, and we're looking forward, and we'll announce this in greater detail. Beginning December, we're going to lift the sales tax on home heating supplies, whether it's oil, gas, electric, so you will get a financial savings at the time that you have to fill your oil tank or you get a supply of electricity or gas to keep your home heated. And the logical time to do it is in December, January, and February, which are harder the winter months when you most need home heating. So that's another one of our efforts to try to help people deal with the financial situations. We recognize there's a problem, and we're responding to that problem in whatever way that we can. Another issue that we're dealing with, and I'm going to ask 2 of our guests to join me up here on the podium, Bridget Gibbons and Shari Rosen Asher. We're launching a Disabilities Job Fair. And we have a number of different job fairs targeted for different purposes. In this particular case, Shari and Bridget will explain what our purpose is. We're very excited to be able to do this as a first-time effort, and it might be something that we'll do in a continual effort. But let me introduce Bridget Gibbons, Shari Rosen Asher, please, to the podium. Thanks.
Thank you.
Let out?
Yep, I get it.
Good. Hi.
Stuck. Thank you, County Executive. The mission for the Office of Economic Development is to implement programs and conduct events to help grow Westchester County's economy. We're always listening to our community and responding to the needs that they are expressing to us. In 2022, one of the critical needs that our businesses have confronted is the inability to hire employees. So we began holding in-person job fairs that brought together employers with job seekers, and we've conducted job fairs in hospitality, healthcare, and other key business sectors. We heard from the County Executive's Advisory Council for People with Disabilities and others in our community that residents with diverse abilities needed assistance gaining meaningful employment, not just jobs, but careers. In response, on September 15th, we will be conducting our Diverse Abilities Job Fair. This will bring together people with diverse abilities looking for employment with employers who are eager to meet them and ready to hire. We're facilitating this gathering. We hope to break down barriers and make it easier for our residents with diverse abilities to meet Westchester County employers and get hired. This is a pilot event, which we intend to fine-tune and roll out across the county in the coming months. Now I'd like to introduce Shari Rosen Asher, our Director for Small Businesses and Chambers of Commerce, who's been organizing this event and who will provide more information about this upcoming innovative event. You can reach Shari at sascher@westchestergov.com or by phone at 914-995-2907. Shari, over to you.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you to the County Executive. Thank you to the Deputy County Executive. We're really, really excited about the first Westchester County Diverse Abilities Job Fair. We're doing this in conjunction with our Office for People with Disabilities, but also in conjunction with other organizations in Westchester who specialize in this, such as Access VR, the Westchester Putnam One Stop, the Yonkers Career Center, nonprofit Westchester, and Spark. This is going to be an active hiring event. It is not just an expo for people to get information on companies. All of these employers will be doing on-site interviews for people, and they will also be providing the opportunity to interview virtually if you cannot make it to the library that day. And once again, it's September 15th from 10 to 1 at the Yonkers Riverfront Library. As Bridget mentioned, this is our pilot. We are hoping it will be successful and we'll be able to roll it out in different locations across the county. We have over 80 people registered so far, which is way exceeded our expectations for this, but just to put things in context, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, labor force participation for people without disabilities is about 68%, and labor force participation for people with disabilities is 22%. So there is a great need. It is much more difficult for people of diverse abilities to connect with employers in a real way and to get the career help that they need. So in addition to having employers such as Amazon, CVS, ShopRite, West Hab, New York Presbyterian, Southern Westchester, BOCES, and ARC of Westchester present, we will also be providing a career resource room with Access VR and the Westchester Putnam One Stop and Spark, who will help people with interview skills, resume help, and just let them know all that's available to them here. So we want to thank all of our partners. We want to thank the library. They've been wonderful to work with. And we're hoping that this is going to be a successful event. If you'd like more information, I'll just give you my contact information again. It's sascher, A-S-C-H-E-R, at westchestergov.com. Please reach out if you're an employer who's looking to find out more about how you can hire people of diverse abilities, and reach out to me because hopefully we'll be having another event in your area. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shari Rosen Asher and Bridget Gibbons, key members of our economic development team, and we appreciate their leadership, that of Deb Novick and of course on Pineda and a number of other individuals that do a terrific job for us, Martha Lopez, This particular initiative is one that came out of our Disabilities Advisory Council. We have a series of boards and commissions that provide a wide variety of input and suggestions of ideas of how to better improve the county's operation. And we bring in people from the community to serve unpaid on these various boards and commissions. And this is an example of having people from within the disability community who have an idea of things that are a concern to them, and then we figure out how to respond to them in an effective way. So thank you again for your role in this, and we look forward to that particular event. I'm going to touch on a couple of issues very quickly before I ask Ken Jenkins to come and talk about a very important issue that we're going to be dealing with a press conference coming up this week. I just want to mention a couple of events that we have coming up on the calendar. We have some flyers. I'm taking this a bit out of the order that we originally decided. So first thing I want to mention is our airport hearings, which are continuing with the next round, one tonight and one from a week from tonight. We've had a number of them already in which we've listened to public input as part of our process of putting together a master plan on the Westchester County Airport. And we've had them at Manhattanville College, we had them at Mercy College, we had them at Pace Law School, and we had a virtual one, all of which starts back as early as late May. Tonight, Tuesday night, September 6th, we will be 6 p.m. at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, 480 Bedford Road in Chappaqua, town of Newcastle, where we will listen to individuals who come and want to testify. Now, we know that we've got a major issue for people who live in the Chappaqua, to some degree Pleasantville area. They live under the flight path to the airport, and many times when we open these things up for public hearing, the comments that we get focus on the noise at the airport. That is a critical issue at the airport. And is one that we have to address in the master plan. It is not the only issue, so these meetings are open for everybody to attend to talk about any of the elements, the terminal, the way we're dealing with our environmental concerns at the airport and how we're addressing them, issues that relate to general aviation as well as commercial aviation. And it's open tonight to all who wish to speak, 6 p.m. At the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center. When you arrive, you'll sign up, and we'll take people on a first-come, first-served basis. We do have priority for certain people. If someone comes has child care responsibilities or some other kind of a need, we will take some people quicker in order to hear them and move them on. But we will be open for as many people as want to speak. A week from tonight, we will be at the Harvest Time Church, which is on King Street in Greenwich on the border of Rye Brook. And Harvest Time Church is at 1338 King Street in Greenwich. And we are specifically having this just over the dotted line into Connecticut to encourage those who live in Greenwich, Connecticut, or Connecticut in general, who wish to comment on this as well. The Federal Aviation Administration does not look at the airport as a function of the geography of the county that it's in or even the state that it's in. It is part of a nationwide system of airports that deal with air traffic all across the country. The FAA is in charge of so much of what happens at the airport, and I know we have these discussions all the time. People say, well, the plane flies over my head. What are you going to do about it? We don't control the air corridors. The federal government does. And we've had issues relative to flights that are coming in from the border. And even to this day, people will still stop me and argue with me over what they think the authority of the county government is. But in the master plan process, we do try to make ground level decisions that are within our authority, which may be able to assist people in some of the concerns that they have about the airport. So we listen tonight based in Chappaqua, next week in Greenwich, Connecticut. And if we have any more of these hearings, we'll let you know about it. We are looking to have a draft together and present it for discussion and then vetting sometime in the month of October. Ultimately, there will be a firm proposal. It'll go before the Board of Legislators for public hearing, for environmental review, and then ultimately whatever we adopt will be part of the master plan for the next 20 years, whatever length of time that the decision makers of that day choose to continue to work with it. But it has to go through the review of the FAA, and so we know what our lanes are. We know what authority we have, what authority we don't have, and we're happy to hear people give us input. But anyway, that's coming up tonight, and then again a week from tonight, so September 6th, September 13th. Next up, and we have a flyer for this as well, we're approaching the 21st anniversary of a very solemn date, and that is the 9/11 attacks on America, and in our backyard, the World Trade Center towers that were taken down that day, the loss of life, and then subsequently the people that worked to deal with a pile of rubble that was on the site and clear it away for new development, which has come to pass now over 20 years, and the people who not only lost their life that day, but the people who lost their life to 9/11 related illnesses thereafter. We have at the Kensico Dam Plaza complex a beautiful architectural sculpture called the Rising that's been in place for about 15 years or so. It was done in the aftermath of 9/11. Under the administration of County Executive Andy Spano, and with private dollars to create this monument. It is beautiful, and it does recognize 103 Westchester residents around the circle of the base who died that day on September 11th, 2001. We have now added to the remembrance in the outer corridor a wall that lists those people who were first responders who have died from 9/11 related illnesses. Each year now, unfortunately, we add names to that wall, people who have lost their life prematurely, who would have been expected to live into their 70s and perhaps their 80s, now dying at a much younger age because they were there and inhaled fumes that created cancers and other diseases that cost them their life. So we expect to have a very solemn ceremony on September 11th at 3 o'clock at Kensico Dam Plaza in Valhalla. We expect to open the door to as many people as want to attend and to commemorate on that day. Most municipalities will be having services as well, starting very early in the morning, going into late in the evening. Please consult your local town, village, or city hall to determine what's happening in your community. That would reflect a solemn recognition. It is a Sunday, and Sunday for some number of people is a day of religious worship. But these events, happen annually, whatever day of the week they fall on. So in this case, it is at 3 o'clock on Sunday, September 11th. That's on the calendar coming up. And we also want to mention that Gold Star Mothers Recognition is coming up on the calendar. It's a little bit later in the month, on September 23rd, and we will have a ceremony in that same location at 2 p.m. at the Kensico Dam Plaza, adjacent to where the Rising sculpture is. And on September 23rd at 2 p.m., Ron Tochi, who heads our Veteran Services Agency, and other individuals will be there to recognize all of those mothers who lost a child, a son or daughter, in their service to the nation. It is a very, again, a solemn commemoration. Municipalities have similar services in Yonkers and Tuckahoe and other parts of the county. We will do this on September 23rd, which I believe is a Friday, at 2 p.m. at the Dam Plaza. And we encourage you to attend any of these events on the calendar so that you can be as connective with these important moments as possible. There's another important action that we're taking, and we'll have a press conference on it tomorrow to talk about it, but we're creating a healing garden, a place of remembrance for those individuals who've lost a loved one to a completed suicide. Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, will tell us a little bit about what that activity is. Ken.
Thanks, George. This September, Westchester County is recognizing National Suicide Prevention Month with the creation of a memorial for those who have ended their lives by suicide in Westchester County. We will be breaking ground for the Healing Garden at Ridge Road Park. The tranquil site in Hartsdale will help build awareness of suicide prevention and create a permanent place for reflection for family members and loved ones of those who ended their lives by suicide. The Healing Garden is the result of a planning committee that was created by County Executive Latimer in 2021 to provide recommendations for a memorial site, and is introduced in partnership with the Westchester County Department of Community Mental Health, our County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, the National Association for Mental Illness, which is commonly referred to as NAMI in Westchester, and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. What we wanted to do was to create a peaceful site for reflection for family members and friends, and help to address the stigma which is also often associated and attached to suicide. The Healing Garden at Ridge Road Park will consist of a variety of trees, pathways, and benches in a circular shape. The garden will be situated within a serene setting of the park and is intended as a gathering place for family, friends, and the public to contemplate and reflect on those who have been lost to suicide, and for the education and awareness of suicide prevention. For additional information regarding the Healing Garden at Ridge Road Park, please contact our Department of Community Mental Health, which is at 914-995-5225, or you can email to mmo6@westchestergov.com. That information is, of course, on our screen that's being provided. And again, we're going to do the groundbreaking ceremony this week, and then we'll look forward to being able to welcome people later on to this particular venue for a healing garden, which is going to be so essential for those that are dealing with suicide prevention. Thank you, George.
Just as a personal note on this particular topic, I was elsewhere in White Plains this morning driving back to the county office building, and the route that I took on Route 119, if you've driven it toward White Plains, you see the skyline of White Plains stretched out on the other side of the rail tracks. And it's an impressive skyline. There's many buildings of tall height, and I've been in many of them, impressive views. You can see New York City across Long Island Sound from there. And you really see in the development of downtown White Plains, very different from when I was a young boy growing up in this county, you see what we can achieve, what mankind can achieve in an area of authority and responsibility. But I also thought about the weather report and how, as I just said a few minutes ago, that we've had drought conditions. Now we have rain right now, and a year ago we had floods, and that was a major issue. That you understand that there's some things that are within our control in mankind, and there's things that are outside of our control. And understanding that balance is really what maturity is, being able to know what you can do and the things that are difficult to do. And, we talked just a few minutes ago about problems that we have with our application for the Paratransit. Brought to our attention, we try to use our resources, our quality professionals in IT and elsewhere to solve a problem that's within our ability to solve. And when we talk about something like the healing garden, what happens in a family that is hurt by the loss of a loved one, a person who completes a suicide? Every situation is different. Every case is completely different, and there are personal realities to that particular case. And we in mankind don't have any particular answer for it. We try to address it as best as we can as fellow humans. There is no singular program that does it. There is no chemical advanced treatment that we think will come along to solve the problem. We hope for vaccines to solve some of the diseases we have, but some things are somewhat beyond our reach. And those are the moments, and this is the moment that we have when we're at the 9/11 monument, where we accept the limits of our ability as a society, our ability as mankind, and we look beyond the things that we can do, the apps we can fix, the pools that we can fix and put back online, and we look at things that are greater than us. And we just try to connect in common humanity. There are people there who have lost loved ones to suicide. They have no answers, we have no answers. But we know that something like a healing garden is the answer of compassionate humans, that we find some solace in shared suffering, that we find some solace in the remembrance of people who were important to us while they lived and that lived full lives, and not just in the moment of how they died, but in the moment of how they lived. And that is why we have this healing garden planned, in the same way as to why we have a memorial for those that have perished because of 9/11. Because we want to, as human beings now, not as government officials, not as members of a political party, not as anything demographic, that we just want to connect with fellow humans. We think that's appropriate, and we think that here in Westchester County, that is the way we show that we are a family as much as we can be. And so the Healing Garden launch tomorrow, we think, is a positive response to something that perplexes us and hurts us, leaves a wound that doesn't really ever fully heal. But tomorrow we'll make those announcements. We'll move forward to implement this. And when we do have the groundbreaking, it'll be a very emotional moment. I know there's many friends of mine I have who have family members who have completed suicide. And we just want to show them that we care about the one that we've lost and about those that survived, and that they equally have a place in our heart. Back to the more prosaic things of government, let me tell you that as we've closed off the summer, we've had really a very excellent summer in terms of the county parks and recreation efforts. So much of what county government does is not something to rejoice in. We run a correctional institution. It is a necessity for the purposes that it serves to incarcerate those that have been convicted of crimes. We have a probation department to serve in concert with those that are released from the correctional institution. We run sewer treatment plants. It's necessary to treat sewerage to create good public health and to do it in a way that doesn't despoil our waters. But none of those things do we take great joy and happiness in. We do take great joy and happiness in the fact that we have beaches and pools that keep you cool during the summer. For those people that have personal resources and have a pool in their own yard, it's wonderful. If you have the resources to join a club and you can be in an environment where you have a pool or a beach, that's a wonderful thing. But for those who don't, we have public facilities like that. We have 4 public pools. We'll have a 5th one back online next year with Playland Pool, and we'll have the Wilson Woods Pool fixed, we hope and pray. We're certainly prepared to get it done. And we also have 2 beaches in Glen Island and in Croton Point Park that the county is responsible and runs. And over the course of this year, we've had really a terrific summer. I won't bore you with all the statistics. I can tell you that even in this age of COVID, we had tremendous annual improvement in the total number of visits in some of these parks. And Tibbetts Brook Pool in Yonkers, 91,000 plus visitors year to date in 2022. 50,000 visitors last year. At Saxon Woods Pool in White Plains, 56,000 visitors this year, 49,000 last year. Spring Ridge Pool, the same doubling, 71,000 versus 35,000. Keep in mind that the Spring Ridge pools lay fallow for roughly 8 years. For 8 years, there's 2 pools down there. One of them was out for the whole period of time. One of them was reestablished in the very end of the 7th year. We put those pools back in business. We had to keep them closed another year to do a reconstruction project because something wasn't set properly in 2018. But we put them back online in 2019, 20, 21, now 22. 4 years it's been back in business. And now we've served 71,000 visitors this year versus 35,000 last year. We are accomplishing our mission by doing that. And in our various golf courses, we've had some pretty impressive numbers. Now, last year and the year before that even more so, during the COVID period of time, you didn't have other options. The gymnasiums were closed in 2020 for most of this period of time. You had a variety of different things that weren't accessible in 2020 and to some extent in 2021 as they were this year. But at our various golf courses, we had tremendous numbers, very comparable over the last couple of years. We have 6 golf courses, 2 in the northern part of the county, Mohansick and Hudson Hills, 2 in Yonkers, at Sprain Lake and at Dunwoody, and 2 on the Sound Shore in Maplemore and in Saxon Woods, and they all had tremendous amounts of attendance, and the golf courses continue to stay open. We've closed the pools and beaches as of yesterday, Labor Day, but the golf courses continue open. As I often joke, I have many friends who play golf. I do not play golf, and they tell me that they would tee off on New Year's Day if conditions were appropriate for it because they love the sport, and we have a public setting which is a more reachable cost to play a round of golf. Now, folks will say, well, golf is for elite individuals. Well, if you're elite enough to join one of the great country clubs of Westchester County, it's a very expensive proposition. But in public golf, we have it at a more reasonable price, which you can enjoy, just in the same way that we have public basketball and tennis and various municipal courts and other different recreations. So is golf a legitimate recreation, and we're very happy that we have that, and we're happy that they're being used at a very strong level. It is one of those things that is county resources made, upgraded, and made available to you. We had a big project a couple of years ago on 2 of the holes at Maplemore. Again, I'm not a player, but I could see that the drainage issues were a problem. And when I've gone there to what is the North Street Tavern, that's a little restaurant that's part of that, and you should go there if you get a chance, North Street Tavern, and you look out over the course, and you talk to some of the guys who've been out on the course, and you say, how's it playing? And they say, oh, it's great. You guys did a great job. I didn't do it, but we made the decisions to fix and make that a good golf experience. So for all of those different recreational things, we're very happy that we've got good use out of it. We intend to fix the Wilson Woods Pool now in the off-season. We intend to complete the Playland Pool in the off-season. It's undergoing a 2-year reconstruction. It's going to look beautiful when it's open. It's getting close to looking like it's going to look. And then also on the recreation side, one season closes and another season reopens. Bicycle Sunday, which traditionally did not go on in July and August, the last 2 summers did go in July and August. So it started May, June, July, August, and then now in September and October. We suspended it in August this year, but we're now reestablished. So this coming Sunday, September 11th, from 10 to 2 on the Bronx River Parkway, we will reopen again Bicycle Sundays. People can go and spend 4 hours going up and down the route. It's a beautiful place to bicycle ride. You see families, you see couples on a date. It's just a wonderful experience. So put that back on your fall calendar. All the weekends of September from here on in, the weekends of October, Bicycle Sundays back in business. I want to make a comment about our updates as relates to the health issues that we face. This is now the 2.5-year anniversary of the first case of COVID-19 breaking in Westchester County. I think we've subsequently determined that there were COVID-19 people who were infected before we knew about it, but there was no way to track them until we had the ability to test. In that very beginning stage, testing was a very rare thing. We did not have in-home testing. We had testing only in one location. There was only one lab that processed testing. It was a whole different world than what we have now. And we've gone through quite a roller coaster on COVID. As it stands now, our numbers are relatively low compared to what they were at the peak. They're not at zero, and I think we have to accept the fact that COVID now is going to be with us for the rest of what we would expect to be our natural life. So we are not going to every week tell you what the number is and it's up a little, it's down a little. We see a certain steady reality to things. We continue to provide COVID vaccinations at our Westchester White Plains Health Clinic. If you haven't been able to get a COVID vaccination shot, most people have had 3 to 4 shots right now. If you don't get it from your pharmacy, if you don't get it from your medical doctor or the medical practice that they're a part of or a local hospital, you can get it through the county. You can call our county health department. They can get you vaccinated up to the level you want. We have certainly tried to promote vaccinations as much as possible. There's some people that won't be vaccinated. We're not in the business of mandating that they do that, but we've had in Westchester a tremendous response. Over 85% of the people in Westchester County have been vaccinated, and it's reflected in the diminishing impact of hospitalizations and fatalities to COVID. We have now 2,800 people that have died of COVID. 400 of those people have died, roughly speaking, in the last year, in the calendar year. And we lost 2,400 of them in the period of time prior to that. So we're doing something to reduce the number of fatalities, but there are fatalities. Age, underlying health issues, and lack of vaccination still contribute to those situations. But we're not going to be reporting on it every week, every month. We have the statistics, we're watching them. If we see it spike, then it becomes a news story and we have to take additional effort. We're prepared to take additional effort. But at this stage of the game, we're providing, where needed, PPE through local governments, local institutions, just as a matter of our normal operating every day. We know that there's vaccinations going on for lots of different things. We had a polio case in Rockland, and we find out that in the society there's a number of people not vaccinated for polio. If you need a polio vaccine, an MMR vaccine, the Westchester County Department of Health can provide those vaccinations, and they can provide it to people who are indigent. You can go to a local neighborhood health center if you have one in your town. Or you can call the county, go on the website, set up an appointment, come in and get vaccinated for COVID or any of these other things. That includes monkeypox. Monkeypox outbreak got a lot of attention when it first broke about 4 months ago. We've worked with those folks in very vulnerable communities and constituencies within certain social circles. We've been effective at giving out sufficient vaccinations. In that case, those in the vulnerable communities have been anxious to be vaccinated. And in that particular disease, the vaccination cures the disease as opposed to just limits the impact of it. But we think in both cases, COVID and monkeypox, we have to move forward as a society. We have to deal with it, but we can't be obsessed by it. And I think it's helpful to know that we ran all of those ethnic festivals this summer. We kept the pools and the beaches open, and we did not have one example of a spike that was tied to presence at one of those events. And that's encouraging. It doesn't mean that you or I won't get it, in my case, get it again. It just means that if it does happen, we manage it, we isolate, we go through the protocol period of time, and we resume our normal life afterwards. And obviously, for those of a certain age, more precautions are necessary. Mask wearing is no doubt essential for some people in some situations. We're opening our school season this year. We don't have control over that, but we're opening the school season without masks and hopefully with kids trying to get back to something closer to normal in their educational process. This pandemic hit us, and we all responded to it. We rejiggered county government completely to address it in full force in 2020, and then in other ways in 21 and now in 22, and we're going to try to be practical as we have been all the way and deal with it intelligently and positively. We've come to the end of the report. We've tried to cover a lot of ground. I'm appreciative for those who actually watch all of this. I'm not sure that it's compelling TV, but we want to be transparent with you. And as we admitted with the app on the paratransit situation, when things aren't going well, we address it. We admit it and we address it. We go forward. And when things are going well in our golf courses, we take some pride in it. But we don't take personal pride. This is the work of professionals all throughout this government. People who've worked very hard day after day, have gone many years working for this government, and never gotten the proper respect that they deserve. Some of it is when you do the union contracts, but some of it is every day to point out people who've gone above and beyond. And we try to do that. That was a strategy that I saw in my business career, private sector. It worked. It helped create an esprit de corps, and that can happen inside government services. Well, I think Ken and I are showing that this is a way that you can govern. You can govern openly. You can govern with a certain warmth of spirit. It doesn't have to be a maniacal, tyrannical control in order to be effective. And when you make mistakes, you acknowledge them, you fix them, and you try to go better, try to do better. So that's our report for now. Do we have any questions? Lisa Reyes from the press? No, we don't. Lisa Reyes was in the press. She always had a question or two. And Carolyn Fortino and Catherine Chaffee, they never let us off so easily. But if there are any members of the press watching, picking this up on feed, you're welcome to call us at 995-2900. We'll be happy to give you further information on any of these topics. We will be back tomorrow with a more detailed explanation of the healing garden that Ken spoke of, which we look forward to people being able to participate in. And then this coming Monday, which will be the 12th of the month, September 12th, we will have our next scheduled weekly update, and we'll keep you posted on events at that time. We appreciate you watching. I am George Latimer, wishing you a good day, a safe day. Welcome to the fall. We're here.